Up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Age of Quarantine. I am your host, Chris Enriquez. Thanks for tuning in and supporting St. Vitus. Happy New Year to all of you. First of all, hope you guys have a better one this year. It's been a rough one. And if you're admiring this t-shirt right here, there's a lot of St. Vitus merchandise on sale through our web store. So if you go on there, you'll find a lot of cool shit for yourself, for your friends, for your family, and whatever you want to do. It's time to support local businesses. We all need your help. So we're doing our best to get some cool shit out there for you guys to enjoy as we do. Tonight, my guest is world-renowned chef and reality star. I don't know if he'll be comfortable with me calling him that, but you might recognize him from Food Network's Chopped. I recognize him from hanging out at St. Vitus and places in our city. You'll see Chris Santos at shows pretty much all year round when we're not in COVID. He's an awesome dude. He has a podcast. He has a record label called Blacklight Media, and he also has a bunch of restaurants: Vandal, New York, Stanton Social, Beauty in Essex, to name a few. And without further ado, we're going to get him on the screen right now and talk to him on this glorified therapy session, as I like to call it. Thanks for tuning in, and if you have any questions, please use the question mark box at the bottom of the screen, or to leave a comment. We'll do our best to try and get to it. Chris should be popping up on the screen. Chris!
Yo, what's up, man?
Good to see you, man. How are you?
I'm good. Hold on, I gotta adjust this a little bit. Okay, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much, man. Can you hear me? Does it look good?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, everything's fantastic, man.
Fantastic.
Really appreciate you making time for us. And first of all, Happy New Year to you, man.
Happy New Year to you. It's really, I'm sure it goes without saying, it's nice to turn the calendar into 2021. And, hope that better things are ahead, which we'll talk about, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was rocking a St. Vitus hoodie earlier, but it's really hot in this house, so I took it off. But yes, definitely love the supporting words of St. Vitus. Really happy to be here. Really happy to support you, support St. Vitus. Can't wait to go back to a show there.
Oh my God, man! Tell me about it.
Man, I'll tell you, it's crazy. We all, I'm sure you can relate. We all took this stuff. Going out to dinner, going to shows, pretty much everything. We all took for granted, right?
Absolutely. I was just talking about that the other day because we had some really great times at Vandal. Thanks to you. Every time our friends from LA would come into town, or just locally when the bands were on tour, we had a great time at the restaurant. So.
Thank you for supporting those. I don't think I made any of those parties, by the way. Those were all.
I know you didn't.
I was always out of town, right? But yeah, I heard what you said. Thank you for the kind introduction. I don't know about reality star, but being at shows all the time is definitely true. I've been going to shows pretty much, several shows a week for, I lived in New York City for 27 years, and what a great city. There's always options, and I'm just like dying to see a show. I'm dying to see a show.
I can't even fucking tell you, man. It's been crazy. Definitely not going to take it for granted when we finally can. Let me kick it off here. I got a ton of questions for you.
Sure.
I hope, Chris, do you mind turning the volume down on your end a little bit? I think my voice is echoing a bit. Let me know if you can still hear me. Is that okay?
I can hear you. Yep.
Perfect. Well, let me ask you this, Chris. It's a redundant question, but I always ask every guest: have you been managing to get through this pandemic, man?
It hasn't been super easy. I did relocate in the middle of it, so I had real quickly, I had COVID in the very early stages of this. I was very, very, very ill with it. I was actually in bed for like 38 straight days. But that was way back in the beginning, in March and into April. And then I had planned on sort of relocating to Los Angeles in May anyway, and I did that. But wasn't, I anticipated that I would be still going back to New York every month to check in on the restaurants, do my job, and also see all my friends. And that hasn't happened. I moved out here in May, and I've been here ever since. COVID has shut down our restaurants here in Los Angeles more than once. We're completely closed now. We're not even doing takeout or delivery. We're in pretty much complete lockdown here. And so I joke with my wife, Natalie. Well, she's not my wife either. We were supposed to get married in October, but because of COVID, we didn't get, whatever. That's fine. We'll figure that out later. But I just call her my wife because she's my wife essentially at this point. But we joke that, you know, I thought I was moving to LA, but what I really was moving to was this house, because that's all we do is kind of hang out in the house. But, you know, we got a puppy, and I'm keeping myself super busy. The restaurant stuff is actually, you know, still, there's always something to do, because we're trying to, whether it's raising money for staff that's lost their jobs, which we can get into. You know, we had to lay off almost 5,000 people.
Oh my gosh.
And then we've raised almost $3 million since that's happened to try and help our you know, our laid off employees, you know, pay their bills or whatever the case may be. I've been busy with the record label. I've been busy with doing a lot of work with Jägermeister, who I'm a brand ambassador for. I did a huge campaign with them. You know, starting a podcast. I keep myself busy. So that's how I've been dealing with it.
I've seen that. It's insane. I don't know how you stay intact with all that stuff, but at the same point in time, I can relate to the fact that when it's all taken away from you and you're used to being as out there as you are, you know, I can relate on a smaller scale, you know, being a touring musician and working at a million companies. It's scary because you're just like, shit, I need to keep busy, whether it's a podcast or anything, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's why this exists. But before we move on, is there a link or a place that you want to let people know, you know, where they could support you and your employees who've been laid off? Is there a place where they can go?
Sure, yeah. You can go to taocares.com, and there'll be a link to the COVID-19 Employee Relief Fund. It has been really helpful. We've actually paid for about a dozen funerals, I think, at this point too. Like, you know, not for our actual employees, but for like their moms or their grandmothers or whatever. It's been very helpful. You know, and we still have a little bit of a long road ahead of us, I think. You know, I do see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I think when things come back, it's going to be really fantastic. I think people are it's going to be, you know, I say this a lot, but it's going to be the roaring 20s all over again. People are going to be coming out to shows like in droves. They're going to be, you know, restaurants aren't going to have slow nights anymore. You know, typically Sunday, Mondays, maybe Tuesdays are a little bit slow. I think 7 nights a week, the restaurants are going to be booming. I feel bad for all restaurants, but you know, I really feel bad for. I've been heartbreaking reading some of the news of some of the smaller independent restaurants, the little mom and pops in New York that have closed and you know, aren't going to recover. So it's heartbreaking, you know, but I hope that everyone will persevere, because I think when this thing flips to whatever the new normal is going to be, I think there's going to be really opportunity for just, you know, really great business to be done. I think bands are really going to benefit. You know, because people are going to come out to shows like they never have before. Although I'd love to hear your opinion on that. I mean, I know you can't wait to get back on the road, but, you know, is there going to be a glut? Is there going to be too many bands on the road?
You know, I haven't thought about it in that sense, but I know that people are starting to announce European tours already, which is interesting. So, you know, that kind of, you know, I can only assume that has to mean that there are better practices taking place overseas than over here, because no one here is announcing tours yet. Right. You know, there are some people announcing festivals in the United States in October, as early as October. So, you know, yeah. I have a feeling that a lot of that has to do with, like, if it's going to happen, they have to start working on it now. But, you know, it's really all up in the air. So I'm just crossing my fingers and knocking on wood. But I agree with you that when all of this shit sort of comes to a head, people are going to definitely be out way more than they were before, and then it's going to be like the roaring 20s, like going to shows, not worrying about whether you have something to do the next day. You're going to go anyway. You're going to want to go out and enjoy times, you know. But yeah, we're going to get into a lot of that stuff. I really, you know, one thing about you that I find really unique that I want to dive into, since we're on the St. Vitus channel here, is that you are a lover of aggressive music. And that really, you know, you talk about food and your restaurants all the time, which I really want to get into, but I feel like you probably don't get to talk about your love of music as much, obviously. So if it's cool, I want to go there for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, outside of cooking, like I said, the aggressive music world is a big one for you. I see you at a ton of shows. When I announced this was happening, the drummer for Helmet got excited and said, I saw that guy at one of my shows rocking out, which is funny. They spot you. Can you talk to us about how you got into heavy music? What attracted you to it in the first place? And then just elaborate, impactful artist, first record shows. Let's go there for a sec.
Gosh, yeah, sure. I mean, God, I mean, if we want to go way, way, way back, I grew up in the '70s. I'm 50, almost 50, be 50 in a few months. So when I was around 7, which would have been the late '70s, I originally got turned on to not metal really, but Blondie, Cheap Trick, Kiss. Kiss was like, everything. I recently found, I recently found a letter to Santa Claus I wrote when I was like 7 years old. And it's one full page of everything I wanted. Kiss dolls, Kiss Alive 2, Kiss this, Kiss that. And then you turn it over and it says, bring my brothers and my sister, whatever you want. I'm sure they'll be fine.
That's amazing.
So, my older brother is who actually works with me on the record label now, all these years later. He was 10 years older than me, and he was into like Zeppelin, and not really like Sabbath, but like Zeppelin and Kiss, and like I said, Blondie and Cheap Trick. So that was sort of, I knew I liked that. And then when I was about 12 years old, I met this girl who turned me on to, she played me Merciful Fate. She was a couple years older than me, and she brought me over to her house and put Merciful Fate's Melissa and Don't Break the Oath on back to back. And I just was like mesmerized by King Diamond. I'm wearing a King Diamond shirt, actually.
I see that,
interestingly enough. Just mesmerized by that. And then, of course, being a child of the 80s, 83, 84, 85, really first starting to discover music, it was all happening, right? So you had the Sunset Strip and Motley Crue and all that stuff. And then you had just Slayer starting to come out and Metallica starting to do their thing. And it was funny because, and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest were sort of at their height in a sense. And I kind of just fell in love with all of it. You know what I mean? I wasn't one of those kids that was like, oh, I can't. I listen to Motley Crue, so I can't listen to Slayer. Like I was like, I had so many friends that were divided. Like, oh, you're a poser if you listen to Motley Crue or whatever. I never got that. Why not love it all if it speaks to you? And so metal music spoke to me at a really, really early time in my life. My first show ever, which I found a poster on eBay. I can't show you, but was the Japanese band Loudness.
Yes.
Yes, I saw Loudness with Keel. Was my brother, the same brother, brought me to see the show when I was about 12 or 13 years old, all ages show. And then soon after that, I was sneaking out of the house to go see Dark Angel and Possessed one week, followed by Rat with special guest Bon Jovi, which is kind of
so funny.
if you can imagine that Bon Jovi once opened for Rat in an arena. And I just would go to shows. I mean, I started going to shows at a very young age. Every Saturday, I grew up in a small town in Rhode Island, so every Saturday I would take the bus to the record stores in Providence and buy anything that came out that week on Metal Blade or Combat or any of the other labels that were of the day. That's why I knew who Brian Slagel was when I was 14 years old probably, and then meeting him 30 years later and starting a record label with him is just surreal. And then I started sweeping. There were 2 rock clubs in Providence, Rhode Island: the Living Room and Lupo's Heartbreak Hotel. And I
love the Living Room. I know that place.
Yeah, so I started. I got in. I started going to shows, and before you know it, I was sweeping the floor for free beer, not getting paid for it, but getting to see every show that I wanted. And then when I was in culinary school, it was from '89 to '93, so I was 18 to 21. And I worked at a place called Club Babyhead, which was an even smaller club. But it was a great time because it was like Mercury Lounge or St. Vitus. It was a very small cap room. And I got to see, Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Rob Zombie, or White Zombie, I should say. It was Pearl Jam featuring members of Mother Love Bone because they weren't even really Pearl Jam yet.
That's amazing. Probably.
So I got to see shows 4 or 5 nights a week. I'd go to culinary school during the day, get my work done, and then go work the door at this rock club. And it was really an amazing time in my life. And then moving to New York City after that, which arguably, especially in the 90s, had a great rock scene and there were shows every night. So I'm just an addict. I'm just an addict to the music and to the live show especially. I'm addicted to live shows.
You're of the generation where I feel like listening to as many podcasts and interviews as I do, everybody over 45 always mentions Kiss first in the conversation with, all the time, and then sort of goes down the list that you went through. When you moved to New York City, I guess that was the time of Coney Island High, CB's is still around, Wetlands, I'm guessing.
Yep.
And you, like you said, were you more of a metal guy, not really punk or any of that stuff?
Yeah, no, not really punk. That's, I mean, it wasn't like I didn't like it. I just didn't gravitate towards it nearly as much. I mean, DRI, Cryptic Slaughter, bands like that for sure, but I wasn't really super immersed in the punk scene. It was always more metal for me. And it did get a more aggressive, I would say. It started with, I mean, I still love hair metal, and like whenever we're in the car, we listen to Hair Nation. But my personal taste definitely got heavier and heavier as I get older, and as I've gotten older, it's continuing to go that way. I've not mellowed yet.
Skid Row is the first concert I went to, so I'm with you, man.
There you go. There you go.
You have a drum set behind you. Were you ever that involved in terms of playing? Did you play in bands or anything?
Yeah,
like
I played in some bands. I mean, I'm not very good. I started playing when I was a teenager. I played in New York for some time. I played with, mostly in studio, no like live shows or whatever. But I played with, I was in a band for a little while with Jeff Blanchard who owns Lucky 13.
Oh yeah, right.
And from the band Eyes of the Sun, we had a little something going for a little while. I just recently unearthed a bunch of cassette tapes of recordings from when I was like, in my teens and in culinary school. But then I put it away. I didn't play for, I didn't play for 20 years maybe. And then when I moved into this house, I went and I got the new TD50, and
that's awesome.
I'm starting to get my chops back slowly but surely. And because, the interesting thing now is I've become such good friends with so many great, amazing metal musicians who I worship, who have become friends now, and they're all like, dude, like, get your chops up and we'll record a song. You have a label, you can put it out.
Really great too is to get you on like the 2 minutes to late. You ever see the 2 minutes to late night?
Yeah, those are amazing.
We got to get you on one of those.
Yeah. Well, I'm not quite there yet, but
okay. We'll talk.
But it's a 2021 goal for sure to get there.
Let me ask you something. This is a question I always wanted to ask somebody that would be qualified to answer. The culinary world, I feel like, has almost rivaled the music world in terms of like how wild shit can get in both industries. Would you say they're comparable, or is one more so than the other?
Actually, you're gonna have to repeat that. I'm laughing because one of my chefs, Timmy, I'm just noticing the comment. The name of my band with Jeff was called Monster Truck Action, and I can't believe that he remembers that.
Oh wow! I like that.
Sorry, that totally caught me off guard. Nice call there, Timmy.
The culinary,
what was the question?
The culinary world and the music world, I feel, can sort of be comparable when it comes to sort of, let's say, the debauchery or the insanity that can ensue. Would you say that's true? And if so, do you think one is a little more insane than the other?
Well, I mean, so, up until recently, how can I put this? For a long part of my career, I was an independent chef in an independent restaurant. I didn't have multiple locations in multiple cities, and I've been surrounded that Timmy, who remembered the name of my band. I mean, him and I have been cooking together since 1996. I want to say. He's been right by my side for however many, 24 years, and we've opened and closed restaurants together. The first restaurant I ever opened in the 90s, I opened with him. And we've always used metal as during the day when we're getting ready for service. We've always used metal, and so it's funny when I think of certain restaurants that I owned over the years, or even if I was just the chef there and didn't own it, I think of certain time periods. Like when I opened my first restaurant, I think of early Deftones. You know what I mean? And,
oh wow.
And so music's always been a part of that. And then I think definitely for sure, I gravitate towards people who are, I guess, super creative chefs, but also if you love metal, that's a plus. So over the years, I've kind of collected a really fun team of metalheads that, have kind of bounced around with me from restaurant to restaurant. And we would always go out, afterwards and go to, back to Motor City Bar back in the day.
Oh man, I missed that place.
Yeah, no, yeah, for real.
Now we had, I guess, Max Fish is Double Down, which I've been to with you before. And,
Double Down, Lucky 13, of course. But so metal's always been a part of the cooking journey as well. And I think there's something about the music that when we're in the creative process, just having it on in the background makes it a little less sterile for us or whatever, for my particular group of people. Derek Prince is another chef of mine. I'm not sure if he's on this or not.
He's watching. He's been
yeah, like, Derek. I mean, Derek. I sometimes think Derek can't cook unless he's listening to really extreme metal.
I got to give him a shout out because every time you hook us up with accommodations. He always comes out and says hello. And Brian Sow, obviously another metalhead chef that worked for you. All amazing chefs.
Yeah, Brian's just putting some good music together. I don't know if you've got a chance to hear it, but
it's great. Yes, he is in a new band. Man,
yeah.
he's gonna kill me. If anyone out there knows Chef Brian Sow's band, the name, please give us a shout out on it so we can give him a plug.
Can I turn the tables a little bit? What's going on? What's going on with your band, and what's your plans like post COVID?
Well, Spotlights, I'm in Pittsburgh right now with Spotlights. I just finished rehearsal, and we are supposedly touring Europe, but, I'm not, we're going to see what happens. That would be later on in the year. And we're just doing some, cool filming stuff like everyone else is that we're going to put up online. Maybe write some new tunes. That's kind of what's up with me musically, but I'm spending a lot of my time on just Revolver, just bought Brooklyn Vegan. And we have Inked magazine and Hard Times News. So really, that's what's taking up most of my time. In terms of music and entertainment, I'm kind of doing more business stuff these days. So
got it.
Very
the
lucky.
name of Brian's band is Lost Becomes. Everyone's telling us.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Lost
Amy.
Becomes. They're great. They're great. No, thank you for asking. I appreciate that. And I feel like there's a great synergy between us two and what we do because we're both just really into. I'm really into cooking now, but I'm not a professional cook. You know what I mean? So half the time I'm posting all this stuff that I'm experimenting with, and most people know me from music. So I love that kinship with you, where we kind of both have the same passions.
Yeah, it's fun. I've done more cooking during this pandemic than I've done in a long time. I didn't do a whole lot of cooking at home when I was in New York. But I'm lucky I got a nice, beautiful kitchen here, but I've also got the luxury of time now, and I'm on a big health kick heading into my 50th birthday. So there'll be a lot of cooking going on over the next 2.5 months so I can look really good on my 50th birthday. And
my God. Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't really age. So I think you're,
well, I don't know about that.
But it's spending a lot of time cooking and spending a lot of time playing music kind of are on par because this has really challenged us to kind of be like, all right, well, what am I going to do with my downtime? I'm going to hone in my skill,
Right.
So it's great to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, and also just I've been trying to tell the chefs that work for me, in the food world, to be a really successful chef, you got to really work a lot of hours, right? The way, to climb the ladder, you have to work a lot of hours to get to where you're going. And then once you're there, you have to work a lot of hours to manage the whole process and manage, multiple restaurants or whatever. And so chefs, we always work nights and we work weekends and we work holidays and we work when everybody else is celebrating. And, it can be really stressful on relationships and family relationships. And it's great in a way because your people like Derek and Tommy and Timmy and Amy and everyone that I can see it's on this call that works for me, they become your work family and they become your best friends, but your actual family, you don't spend that much time with them. So I've been trying to really preach that, at the very least, use this time to reconnect with your family and your friends and even if it's virtually, because you're never going to have this time again. If you're going to do this for a career, you're never going to have this kind of time off ever again. So
dude, absolutely. Like when else are you going to be able to fucking sit and cook in a kitchen for fucking 10 hours alone and experiment or go play a guitar and fucking just write the best shit where you can't go to work. You know what I mean? So I love that. I don't want to ask you questions that you've probably answered a million times already, but I do want to sort of use this opportunity to get into a little bit. When and how did you find your passion for cooking?
Well, it's interesting. So initially it wasn't really a passion for cooking. It was a passion for, to play metal. When I was a teenager, I wanted to buy a drum set and I told my mother that one day, and she said, "Well, then I guess you need to get a job if you want that drum set." And I told her I wanted a car also. And I noticed when I was in 8th grade that all the cool kids in high school had either a car or an instrument or both. So I caught on real quick that was a cool thing to have if you wanted the girls, I guess. So I started washing dishes just like many chefs. That's their journey. I started washing dishes, and it was a chef took me in under his wing shortly thereafter. That I was very young, but he really pushed me. By the time I was 16, I was line cooking with adults. I was the only kid on the line, which I got teased about on a daily basis, but I held my own. And then went to culinary school, and that started to really, so I graduated high school and I just wanted to play music, and my mother convinced me to go get a 2-year degree in culinary arts so that if the music thing didn't work out, I would have something to lean back on. And so I did do that, and I did really well, and I really enjoyed it. And then they offered me a scholarship to stay for 2 more years and get my bachelor's in hospitality management. So I did that, and then I moved to New York, and moving to New York was a real eye opener. But still, in a way, I also have a huge passion for boxing, and I started boxing, and I moved to New York and started boxing at this Times Square gym. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but cooking was kind of, you know.
I wanted to talk about boxing in a little bit too.
Yeah, and then you know, I became a sous chef. My friend Tommy and Timmy, who are on here, were there. This was in the 90s, and you know, I never really worked under any great chefs or did that with my career. I kind of jumped out of culinary school and right into sort of the chef role. So I had to learn on my feet, and I was really, you know, New York was a real eye opener. But then I went to Europe. I took about a half a year off and went to Europe and traveled all over Europe, and just really fell in love with food in Europe. It was back in the 90s, and I don't know, there was just something eye-opening about the way I went to 14 countries, over 40 cities, and the reverence for food was really incredible. And you know, just I hadn't really looked at it through the eyes of you know, just how amazing food can be and how passionate you can be for food. It had always been just a job. And so when I came back from 6 months of just backpacking and eating around Europe and spending time in some kitchens in Europe, I came back with a renewed passion and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And
that's fucking awesome, man.
Yeah. And it sent me on my way. And, you know, there were some ups and some downs. I opened a restaurant that put me on the map and got me a great review in the New York Times, but without sparing you it's a long story. You know, 9/11 closed us, which was kind of tragic, but I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had to just kind of shake it off and start over again. I've started over a few times. My first couple of restaurants were not successful, but you know, what do they say? You know, try again or whatever. And eventually, you know, once I started cooking the food that I like to eat, as opposed to trying to cook food that I thought other people wanted, that's when everything started to change.
The passion kind of is gonna get you far when it really means that much to you, especially after that transformative trip that you just talked about. I mean, these are life-changing things. You know, I'm sure you can speak to that with folks in your field the way that I might talk to other fellow musicians about, you know, how can I become famous as a drummer? How can I, you know, not that I'm famous, but you know what I mean? Like people that are just like, I'm like, well, I mean, it really starts with passion, and you can't just fucking talk to somebody and suddenly learn how to just overnight turn into this thing, you know? But yeah, no, funny thing about your life that I am so into is like, when I think back to mine, I wish I went to culinary school instead of getting in not that I regret anything, but like, I'm so into cooking now later in life that like, I wish that I thought about that or had that run through my mind when I was in my 20s. And I spent those years getting in vans and driving around the country and trying to, you know, do the thing. And so I really like the path that you've been on. And I always love watching your shows and just food shows in general. So it's your whole story is like super fascinating to me. I love that you're in our scene too, which is really cool. But talking about like how your culinary career skyrocketed in the 90s and all the restaurants that you own, at what point did you end up getting into the public eye, you know, where you were approached to be like on TV on these different programs?
That happened a little bit later. That happened, I mean, in the early 2000s from 2001 until 2007, I would do things like Good Morning America or the Today Show, and eventually somebody paid attention from Food Network, or not paid, I shouldn't say pay attention, somebody noticed, and I got a phone call. I was in Las Vegas and I got a phone call asking if I wanted to come and do 3 episodes of this startup show called Chopped. And I said, sure, you know, why not? What is it? I mean, I didn't know much about what it was or anything. I just flew back to New York quickly, and I shot these 3 episodes of this show. I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, obviously I was a judge and I was judging of it, but it was really, the whole thing, those 3 days went by in like 3 minutes. And I was like, I thought I blew it. I was like, I felt like, oh God, they're never going to call me back. And then here I am. It's now 12 years later. We've done over 800 episodes. You know, I myself have done probably 250, 260 episodes. And it's been a blast. Matter of fact, a tournament starts tonight called Grudge Match. And it's 8 of the judges, 8 of us, and 8 returning champions battling it out. And I believe you can catch me on there tonight or starting next Tuesday.
That's
Cooking,
awesome, man.
cooking instead of judging.
We actually did a Spotlights tour, I believe it was last year, where every night when the shows were over and we got to the hotel to go to bed, we turned the TV on, and almost every night you were on the television, which was great. You were actually on the television at the City MD while I was waiting for my COVID test the other day, and I'm like,
great.
Hilarious.
I hope it was comforting. I hope it was comforting for you.
Very comforting for me, and to everyone in there that was waiting. But going back to music, when did you? Because, you know, I know you, and we've talked about this before, but like, you obviously got comfortable at some point in your career where you go, oh, I want to pursue other passions. So when does Blacklight Media happen, and can you kind of talk about how that sort of came into fruition?
Yeah. So, okay. So over the years, I've been really fortunate to become really good friends with a bunch of musicians who I said before I really look up to, and basically my restaurants have become known as, you know this, but they've kind of become known as destinations for bands who have a night off. You know, if you have a day off in New York or Vegas or LA, they typically, you know, and you're in a metal band, you either know to come see me or somebody tells you to come see me. And the fastest way to any musician's heart is through their stomach, I found. And so I've become really, really close friends with a lot of really great musicians. And I've Kerry King from Slayer, or no longer Slayer, my heart is breaking. But Kerry King became a really good friend of mine and wanted to introduce me to Brian. And then Brian had a separate conversation with Johan from Amon Amarth, because in 2013, I went on the Mayhem Festival with my friend Timmy. And we cooked for, for all the bands. We did barbecues. Whenever there was a day off the next day, we'd have a late bus call and we would do midnight barbecues for all the bands. And Amon Amarth was on there. And so he was having a separate conversation with Brian. And Brian did, we ended up at a Slayer show, all of us together at the Garden, and I met Brian, and it was just weird, like I said, because I knew who he was when I was 14 or so. You know, he inspired me to start a fanzine when I was 15 or 16, which is funny because I interviewed Testament and Nuclear Assault and all these bands back when I was 16 years old, and I'm friends with them now. It's so weird. But we got introduced to the show. It wasn't that many years ago. It was probably 5.5 to 6 years ago. And we immediately became best friends, basically, me and Brian. And Brian would come back to my apartment in New York when he was in New York, and we'd have dinner or whatever, and then he'd come back to my place and open a bottle of wine, and I'd start like playing him music, because one of my biggest hobbies at that point, and one of my favorite ways to unwind, is I'm like a really stealthy internet hunter when it comes to finding like unheard music. It's kind of like I really love finding and discovering new stuff, and so he started signing bands that I was playing for him. He signed Harm's Way. He signed If These Trees Could Talk, which are amazing. We
toured with them. Well, I was in a band, but yeah.
What an amazing band. So he had never heard of it. So, we'd sit in my apartment at 3 o'clock in the morning and listen to the two If These Trees Could Talk records I had, or the Harm's Way stuff that I had. And after, and then Candiria was talking about getting back together and doing a record.
Oh wow, and Chris, did you play Harm's Way for Slagle? Is that how that happened?
Correct, yeah.
Wow, I did not know that. That's fucking awesome.
And then Candiria wanted to do their comeback record, and so I kind of brokered it at Stanton Social. I sat down for dinner with Brian and introduced him to John Lamacchia and Mike MacGyver, and they basically hashed out that night a deal for the comeback record. Yeah. And then there's a band called Motherfeather. There's a great band that I think it was like 4 or 5 bands that Slagle signed, and where he finally just turned to me and said, dude, we got to do a label together, And I was like, I don't have time for that. I hemmed and hawed about it. And he said, we're going to do all the heavy lifting. You just identify these cool bands and let's go out and get them. And
I see. I didn't know that you helped with Trees and Harm's Way. That is fucking cool.
Yep.
So it's before Blacklight. And your music taste is eclectic, and I've had people tell me that too. Aside from just knowing you, people that have been to your house and told me about like the different posters that you might have had up or music that you put on. Let's talk about that for a second, because Metal Blade Records, not that they don't have a diverse roster, is known fundamentally for being a metal label. You really have championed different styles. Like Motherfeather's a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
So who's on the label right now? Let's promote everybody and let everyone know what's happening.
Yeah. So we've got let's see. Where should we start? We've got Siberia, who are from Spain, who are very much in that If These Trees Could Talk realm. Post-rock instrumental, lots of layering of guitars, really, really great, really great band. We got Motherfeather, who, as you said, are a rock band. They're really, they owe their influences are more, Iggy Pop, Blondie,
right?
Mick Jagger with makeup and Kiss. You know what I mean?
They got one of the best drummers too, Gunnar, who's in Pussifer with Maynard. Great drummer.
And great live act. I mean, they're just insanely good live. Gozu, who have become really good friends. I mean, they've all become friends of mine, but Gozu guys and I have become really good friends, and that's a really special story for me because some of the first bands that we signed were bands that I liked and approached. Actually, Good Tiger was the very first band that we approached and signed, and they were our very first signing, and I love Elliot and I'll love that band forever. But Gozu I saw at Lucky 13 opening for Scissor Fight, and I approached them after their set. While they were playing, I was live, playing live video on FaceTime for Brian, and I approached them after, and it was. I'm so used to introducing myself as a chef, and a lot of people know me from Food Network. And here I kind of was trying to tell these guys I had a label, and their ears didn't really perk up until I said it was a Metal Blade subsidiary, and then all of a sudden they were interested. But so I'm so glad we signed them. They're great. They put out a record for us.
Gozu's awesome. Yeah. So
good. Yeah, they're working on the new one now. We've got a great band called Fight the Fight out of Norway, who released first record with us, second record overall in September, called Deliverance. Great record. One of the for me personally, one of the sad stories of COVID, because I really had high hopes for them to tour behind that record and to come to the States, because they've never toured the States before, and they've got a really great. They're a metalcore band, but they would be. I see them. I mean, I close my eyes and I see them on all the Danny Wimmer festivals, and just crushing it. I think they're that good. But they couldn't tour because of anybody that's watching this that's into metal. If you don't know Fight the Fight, go to YouTube too, because their videos are really cool too. They got a really good look and feel to them. We've got Eyes of the Sun, which is Jeff from Lucky 13.
Did a couple shows with them. Yeah.
Super doomy band. And then we just recently signed 4 bands. Two I can't talk about yet because the ink's not dry, but I'm really excited. One from Australia and one from England. And then but we also recently signed a great band called Capra from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who are very much in that kind of knocked loose Harm's Way world.
Oh, wow.
But female fronted, and she's a maniac and she's amazing. And so we have high hopes for them. Their record's going to come out in April. And we also just signed a really great thrash band from Arizona called War Curse, who again, we won't have any new music from them until probably the middle of next year, but the stuff that they previously released on their own, you can find it easily on YouTube, and they are awesome. Just super modern thrash, just really great band. So yeah, so to your point, we're a little all over the place with the label. We're not genre specific. If it rocks and it's heavy and I like it, but we're also trying to build, it's a boutique label, and we want to keep it that way, at least until maybe one day when I step away from the restaurants, we'll kind of blow it up a little bit, but we like keeping it a little bit small. We have the opportunity, we've had several opportunities to sign bands that were sort of coming back, that, you know, had popularity in the 2000s, and all bands that we support and love. But we decided that wasn't the label we wanted to be. We wanted to be about a label about finding new bands and getting them ears that they might not get otherwise. So it's a passion project. It's really bands I love. I mean, everyone wants to make money. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to make money, but that is not why I'm doing this label.
Right.
I'm doing this
I mean,
label for the love of the
I
music.
feel that as well. I mean, on two different levels. I mean, well, sticking to like our day jobs, I guess, like Revolver, what it's turned into, I feel is not genre specific as it once was, because I just turned 40. I mean, obviously a little younger than you, but like the scope of you know, outsider music or aggressive music now, I feel is not the way it was for us back in the day. It's not just about heavy metal or punk rock. It's everything, and it lives in the same space. If it's angry or dark or has some kind of underlying thing in common there, it speaks to the same people, you know. So that's what we try to champion. If it's good and it touches people in that similar kind of way, then it's something that we support.
And there's so much good music out there, and it's hard because everything's changed, right? Everything's changed. The way people get their music has changed. I read an article. Matt Bacon, you know Matt Bacon?
I do, yeah. I know he's handling a lot of marketing.
So Matt works with us over at Blacklight Media, and he sent me a link to an article that I read today, and it said something like, you know, 40 to 50,000 new songs are released on Spotify weekly. Now that's across all genres, right? But still, like, how do you cut through that to find what you really want to hear?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one cool thing I love about that, which for you and I guess, you know, there's the playlist, you know, we probably deal with the same people. It's like you put on a playlist of a genre that you like, and it's all this niche stuff now, and you get some Blacklight Media bands on there. It's the best way now for people to discover this stuff, because unfortunately, we don't have Headbangers Ball or 120 minutes, right. And the bands that you and I are talking about are not going to be tomorrow's rock stars. I mean, and I don't think they want to be, you know, so that's kind of what's cool about all of this. We have our little underground world that you can actually still be in successfully, you know, so I love that. More power to you, man. And you know where to find us to promote the bands that you're pushing in 2021. So we'll do our best to do our stuff. I know we got 20 more minutes. I don't want to keep you too long. I know you're busy. Let's talk about some of the cool bands that have come to the restaurants, though, just to tie it in together. I've been there. I know you had Brutus come in there after they played St. Vitus.
Yes, that's right.
And Disturbed. So, you know, want to talk about some of the cool bands that have come down?
Yeah, I mean, so many. I mean, and it's kind of amazing, because it's really been a word of mouth kind of network. And so it started with just here and there, but now it's like, you know, every tour cycle, you know, if Mastodon's on the road, I see them 2 or 3 or 4 times during the cycle. If Anthrax is on the road, I see them a couple times during the cycle. You know, and you know, it's just fun. I'm going to name drop just because it's so amazing.
No, I want you
I recently became friends with Paul Stanley because he loves my restaurant and loves Chopped.
Oh my God, that's fucking rad.
You know, bringing that kind of conversation full circle, you know, being a 7-year-old listening to Kiss and wanting everything from Santa Claus to come from Kiss, and then to have Paul Stanley be in your restaurant telling you that he loves you on Chopped is like wild and crazy and beyond. But, you know, and Slayer would always come in. One of the cool stories is Slayer's last 2 shows that were in Vegas and in LA. The last show was at the Forum, and the second to last show was in Vegas, but they all had Thanksgiving off. And so what Slayer did is they brought in their entire team to Beauty and Essex in Las Vegas. Was it Las Vegas or LA? It was Vegas, but they brought everybody. They brought their road crew. They brought their lighting people. They brought every single person that has worked for Slayer. And so it was probably 75 people, and we all had Thanksgiving dinner together, which was like just such a super cool thing. But I just kind of stayed, you know, obviously I just kind of hung back and watched, just to watch everybody kind of reflect on this moment where they were just about to play their last show ever, and they were sharing this meal together as a group for probably the first time ever in their career. And most of those people, you know, the techs and everybody, the lighting guys, you know, the sound guys, they've been touring with Slayer for decades, and this is really the first time that they all got together under one roof to share a meal. And it was just to have them choose one of my restaurants. I'm actually getting goosebumps on my arms. It was such a cool thing.
As you should. Do you ever frame any pictures of you with the bands up at the restaurants, or do you kind of not?
No. I like to let them lay low.
In the moment.
Yeah,
Derek
Brian Slagle's on here, and he remembers it was in Vegas. Hi, Brian.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, no, I was gonna say Derek mentioned Mastodon and Megadeth have been to the restaurant as well.
Yeah. Oh gosh, sure. I mean, God.
Disturbed, as I mentioned. Personally, I've been at your restaurant with Jesse Leach of Kill Switch. I was there with him once through the parties that you let us have. Thank you again.
Yeah,
in the basement of Vandal and Baroness. You weren't there, but they all knew it was your place.
Yeah.
So we brought a lot of people, and then
so the Helmet guys. I mean, John Tempesta from the Cult. You know, like I said, Mastodon, Avatar actually have become really good friends through. So that's a great thing. So I'm a big fan of Avatar, who are doing the next 4 Saturdays. They're doing a live stream, which I'm really excited about. But they became friends because they're all vegan, and so they came through a recommendation, probably from I don't know maybe if it was the producer or what, but they came to my restaurant and I gave them a vegan meal, and they were just blown away. They had never, ever in the States had a meal like that, and so. Every time Avatar was in a city I was in, they would come and see me, and that kind of all culminated with when they just recorded their last record. They actually invited me. We did a little trade. I brought them a vegan meal to the studio, and I got to hang out in the studio for a couple of days and actually watch them record the record, which was a really cool experience for me.
Okay, well, that's first of all, we'll shout out to everybody we just mentioned, and if you're out there and you haven't been to Chris's restaurants, you might see one of your favorite bands in there. So make your way over there when everything's open. Before we run out of time, can you tell us about the podcast that you started, where people could check it out, and maybe who were some of the guests so far?
I would love to tell you, but I won't. I can't tell you because tomorrow I'm actually speaking with a group that was probably going to distribute it for us and get it out there. So I don't know. Where to send people, but if they follow my Instagram, Santos Cooks, or This is Chris Santos, or Blacklight Media Official, it'll definitely you'll be able to find it. But we've recorded a small handful of episodes so far. Chad Gray from Hell Yeah, Joey Vera from Fate's Warning, and Armored Saint. Brian Slagle, of course, was our very first podcast, and we've got Jose from Liquid Metal, and he was one of our guests.
Shout out to Jose.
I love him, and we have a big list of people who have promised to come on the show. So Josh Barnett, who's a mixed martial arts fighter, but is also known for throwing people off of Every Time I Die stages. Was a guest. So it's fun. We're still kind of putting it all together though. So there'll be an announcement soon on my socials and on Blacklight Media socials as to when it's going to air. I think the first episode hopefully will air by the end of January, and it'll be a weekly thing.
Awesome. And shout out to, I'm going to shamelessly promote Spala Copa because I started managing John. John Lamacchia was on one that'll be airing. Of Candiria, of course. We want to talk about boxing a little bit because you just mentioned martial arts. Did you start recently, or is that something you've been?
No. I started boxing in the late '80s.
Oh wow!
And started taking it seriously around then, and then I kind of dabbled in and out, and then from 1996 until about 2008, I was very serious about it. I was at a gym called Gleason's in Brooklyn. That's a pretty world famous gym. Muhammad Ali trained there, Mike Tyson trained there, and I trained there. And I trained very seriously. I sparred with a lot of pro fighters. I had the same rib broken twice. I was getting cortisone shots in my rotator cuffs because I took it really seriously. And in 2010, I was getting ready to open Beauty in Essex, and I suffered a fracture in my hand. And my partner, Rich, looked at me and was like, come on, man, we're like 2 weeks away from opening a restaurant. Like, stop boxing, you know? So I said, all right, I'm going to take a year off, let my body heal anyway. And then I just never went back until this past year. So I let almost 10 years go by, 9. go by where I didn't box at all, but I didn't do anything for exercise. So I gained like 60 pounds over the 9 years.
I love the videos of you, though. I mean,
I'm back. I'm definitely back. I'm
Yeah.
training with Freddie Roach, who's a world famous trainer. He
Of
trains
course.
the boxer Manny Pacquiao, and so I'm very lucky to be training with him. That my wife somehow put together for me. I still don't know how she did it, but she did it. But I take it really seriously. I'm down, 20 pounds or so, and I'm loving it. I'm loving being back in the ring.
Awesome, man. I love that. Well, before we take off here, I had a couple just random questions for you. Since we know you love St. Vitus, you want to share any of your favorite memories or favorite shows before we go?
Sure. Oh gosh. Let's see. Rivers of Nile, because my friend Jeff from Lucky 13 got busted up in the pit and ended up all bloody, which I thought was great. The Anthrax show that happened that was a good one. 2 summers ago or whatever was really great. Megadeth was great. And I really love this band. Rivers of Nile. Who else, man? Oh, and of course, If These Trees Could Talk, which I was right in the front. That was an incredible show. I love that venue. I love that venue. I love the size of that room. I saw Chelsea Wolfe there, which was an amazing show.
That was such a good show. I know the show you're talking about. That was a couple years ago.
God.
Yeah.
So good. God.
Oh, and Brutus show. You love that Brutus show.
Brutus. Oh, forget it. Brutus is. I love Brutus in general. I mean, as a drummer, or pseudo drummer, I just think she's so incredible.
Yeah, that was a treat because I think that was their first time playing. Well, it was their second show in America. It was their first show in New York that we got to see. Yeah.
She's. I mean, it's not even her technique, or it's just how she's just such an aggressive. I just love the way she plays drums, man. I just love the way she plays drums. Yeah. And so that was a great show. I mean, there's just too many to count. And just running into you there, running into from Dave Castillo, who I'm not sure if there he is. He just called me a true Vitus OG. Well, thank you very much. I love that. I love that bar, and I'm jonesing so much for.
No, you gave us a lot
there.
Let's get this out of you. Top 3 metal records of all time.
Say it again.
Top 3 metal records of all time.
Top 3 metal records of all time. I'm gonna have to go with Slayer, Rain of Blood, Deftones, Adrenaline, or White Pony. Really, either or. They're interchangeable. And then 3. That's tough. 3. God.
Especially when you got one more, right?
I feel like every record that Gojira puts out is the best record I've ever heard every time they put out a record. So
I think they have another one coming this year. I can't wait for it. That band.
Yeah.
My biggest regret is not seeing them at St. Vitus. I was around too. I just couldn't make it.
Yeah, I didn't either. Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
Well, do you have any final comments, shout outs, or announcements you want to let everyone know about before we take off?
No, I mean, just thank you very much for having me on. Like I said, keep an eye on you can find Blacklight Media, very simple, on all the socials. Blacklight Media Official on Instagram, blacklightmedia.com. This is Chris Santos is kind of where I house a lot of that stuff. Although Santos Cooks, you can also go to and get information. But we definitely are excited to drop this podcast. We're definitely excited to drop some new music from Capra and Warcurse and Gozu at the end of the year, hopefully. And really excited to announce the other 2 bands. So this stuff happening. We're definitely picking up traction, and super proud of it, super happy, and thankful to Brian and the whole Metal Blade team, because I obviously couldn't do this without them. And I couldn't do it without the support of people like you, people like Frank Godler over at Metal Injection. I mean, the community at large has really supported this endeavor for me, and I can't thank you enough.
Hey, it's an honor to know you, man, and I urge everybody to when the world gets back to normal, Stanton Social, Beauty in Essex, all the spots. I don't know if I said Vandal already. Too many to name, but go out there and support the businesses, man, and follow Blacklight Media for updates. And if you wanted to go back and watch the rest of this interview, if you tuned in too late, it'll be up on the St. Vitus Instagram and on YouTube shortly. But Chris, man, I hope we cross paths again.
Yeah, I need to get you on my podcast as well, so I'll call you on that soon.
I would love it, man, and please thank your wife for that Revolver subscription, even though I would have just given it to you.
No, I totally will.
I got some presents.
I thought that was funny. I thought it was very cute of her, because she probably has no idea that I know you so well and everything. But
well, I got some goodies coming to your house soon. I'm sorry for the delay.
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, man. You're the best.
All right. Well, maybe I'll see you on TV later on, man.
All right, cool. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, brother.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to be back tomorrow with Artie Shepard hosting, and next week we're trying a new schedule out. We're going to be doing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I have Igor Cavalera from Sepultura and Cavalera Conspiracy. He is going to be on. It's going to be awesome. So tune in, and if you dig what you're watching, spread the word, and we appreciate your support. Stay safe, everybody. Wear a mask and be good to each other. Thanks so much for watching.